For those of you who might be watching on Facebook, this is the 100 Computer Club, and this is our presentation section. Alright, so let's get started. And I'm going to do a presentation on the latest thing that has come around this week is Chrome has been updated on all your computers or Androids or iPads. And you may not know there's been some changes that are going on, so this will bring you through to what's happening. So this really applies to not only Google, but to its product Chrome. Doesn't apply to Safari or Firefox directly, but you'll see indirectly it does. So you probably know what an ad blocker is, but it seemed appropriate just to get a focus point here. So ad blocker is software, and we've had people talk about it at the Computer Club and discuss, the ad blockers they use, why they use them, and so it's not a foreign topic to the Computer Club as far as advising our members and visitors to how to help them with problems using the internet. So ad blocker software goes on there and blocks the ads from actually showing up. And having worked inside of some companies, they actually will have their employees' pages blocked. So they're browsing on the internet, they might not be able to see certain content. I forget, it was a Verizon for 6 months, it was a Verizon several years ago, and nothing video you could see. They just blocked it off. So you go to a web page and just it would come through because the company was firewalling it out, but the ad blocker software. And so it does this for all different kinds of reasons. So why is Google interested in ad block? So hence the odd couple. Google wants advertising to run because it makes money off of advertising. So why would it want to be participating in blocking the advertising? So these are some of the things I picked up from researching this. So they claim that they're getting good and bad input from users on ads. They have a blog article on this that was posted in June when they announced what they were going to do, and the blog article starts out with this paragraph that talks about, we've got input from you folks and we're going to improve things. But I'm just going to say that even the Computer Club has mentioned to people different ways to not be tracked on the internet or better browsing experiences, and DuckDuckGo is one. So I'm just saying perhaps it's also things like DuckDuckGo. I'm just being a little tongue-in-cheek here. The main reason is that there's been a growth of people adding ad blockers, and there was a big study done about a year ago. We have some of the statistics here so you can take a look at it of what's going on. So an ad blocker is basically keeping the ad off the web page. And there's been growth, and here's some of the reasons why people are doing it: because there's too many ads, their web browser slows down, they're interrupted, and we already had some comments about the videos being intrusively playing when they go on there. They're worried about security issues and things like that. Let me just see if I can go out. So they either learned about it from the Computer Club. I like to throw out a Computer Club into this. Oh, wait a minute, the slide hasn't updated yet. Okay, apparently it doesn't show it didn't show the bills. All right, I'm sorry about that. Got a learning curve issue here with. I have a learning curve issue using Keynote. Apparently there's a slide build that shows these reasons, so I'll read them. So users have done this because they've learned about the ad blockers from a friend, a colleague, or a family member from the internet. They don't remember why they used it, or they're just searching for browser extensions, so that's where they got them from. I hope I don't have too many builds. We'll see what happens. So this is the article. Not that we have to read it or anything, but this is the June 1st article that announced it. So we've all been kind of waiting for this. What's Google going to do? But they've been busy already working on this, trying to reduce the number of annoying ads on here. So this is an article. I have a link to the deck that we'll put up on Facebook, and you can go out and read their original thinking behind this. But you can see they have the number of people blocking ads is up 30% from 2016. So you can see they're concerned because when the ads are blocked, they don't get any revenue near to the people that are advertising on these websites. So this is just some of the data that came out of the report. This is the fellow that posted the article and put all the report together for us. I thought I put his name and face up there, because it seemed like he did a good job. But this is like the lead one. It could just show you the growth from 2014 all the way to 2017 between the red line, which is mobile, where the data started in 2015, and the bluish line. You can see the growth in number of people actually installing blockers, which it pays for the internet is the ads. So just a quick, some of the data in there, people using this. We saw the graph, 30% it grew. And you can just see everybody's just looking for ways to get rid of those ads. It's just annoying them. It's like cutting the cord for TV, trying to get rid of the ads and the costs. So it has nothing to do with any ages. So you may be, some people in the room are just users, and some people in the room are involved with businesses or websites. So it affects both of you. So it's affecting definitely websites, depending on who you're trying to market through. All ages, doesn't matter what age, you're all putting these items in. But interestingly enough, their research has shown that people actually don't mind display ads, and I don't see why not. I got newspapers over my entire life. They all have ads in them. But they don't really get in your way. They're just there on the page. You can read the article. The ad doesn't all of a sudden crawl up the page and cover it. They're a much more pleasant experience. So apparently, their research has shown that people don't mind the display ads. All right? Some other data on there about them. So when their ad blocker says, oh, we got a lot of ads to block on this, or they pop up a question, a lot of people just hit the back button. So this is really bad news for people to do that. And it's just some more data. It's a couple slides on the data here. 74% just leave the website. This is a graphic version of some of those pieces of data. So you can find out what age group you're in. If it's off the chart,
it's funny that there's not that much different in the percentage.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty universal. All right, so what has always existed on the internet, and you may not have been aware of it, is internet advertising boards. So just like any other industry group, somebody forms it, they get together, they get members, they get people involved. And I've used them in the past when I used to put web pages together, well, even now, but even in the past, finding out what's the best way to put display ads on a web page. And there was always recommendations. You want to go back to a long time ago when we used to have those kind of fixed width web pages. Everybody had 640K or 1024K monitors, and that was all existed, no smartphones. There were some rules that we used to have. It used to be the banner ad would have to be 640, and that was one of the more popular ones. And then over time, as we got to these flexible forms, different size monitors and so on, the rules changed. So there's organizations out there to do this. The newer one is the Coalition for Better Ads, and we're going to take a look at that one. And they have come up, and they're working with industry, Google's involved too, to come up with ways to say what is a good advertisement policy for a web page, how to best accomplish the goals that they want to accomplish. So you can see there's always a plan behind this. They've been plotting against you, and they actually have descriptions for each kind of annoyances that you've had, only from a marketing point of view. For example, like what we call an interstitial, or you leave or arrive at a page. In marketing departments, they talk about building that and designing it. So this board came up with ways how to do these well. And the other one is the IAB. That one's been around for a long time. Internet Advertising Board. And they just put up policies and try to raise money, most likely. All right, so it breaks down to these different types of, we would call them annoyances as users. Well, how can they annoy me? Pop-up ads, auto-playing video ads, prestitual, I don't even think you looked that word up in the book, in the dictionary, but it is an actual word now, ads at the countdown, with countdown, so an ad comes up and it's going to say, you got to stay here. Where do you see that in YouTube a lot? You go to YouTube and it says, you can't watch this until
Your seconds are
up, and then the sticky ads, you can't get them off the page. You scroll up and down. This is the one we saw with Seinfeld the other night, only that was on TV, where it's just stuck on the bottom. No way to get rid of it. And as well on mobile. Mobile, you can see they've gone a little bit further. Mobile is the big problem because mobile is where the growth is in people using websites. As desktop is drifting down slowly, mobile's a big growth area. And mobile's even more troublesome when you can't use it because you have a little bit of space. But you can see they get to the pop-up ads. They have ads taking up most of the page. So even if you can scroll up and down, the ad just gets in your way. The flashing, animating ads. And people hit back buttons on these things. So if you're a publisher, you're asking for bad analytic data. And of course, if you're a user, you may get rid of it. And Google, they lose money. See, they want the money. So they want to make sure all these things are out in here. So let's go to that site. Didn't like my fingers. Very sensitive about where I put my finger on the screen. So you can go here too if you like. It's either as a publisher or you're just curious. And I thought what was interesting about this page was that you can study these things and see exactly how they work. For example, pop-up, you're pretty familiar with this. So if you click on that, what this website does, it does an animation of it for you. So they're saying this is the way it should work. So if you go here, they're saying advertisers, this is the way you should do a pop-up. So how could they do a pop-up that's differently? Well, you make you wait. Can't get rid of it until you click on it. Or you have to say yes or no. See, they're saying don't do that. Have a little X at the top. Now, I used to have a course and a tutorial online on how to do a pop-up ad on a web page. Now, some of you have been around long enough. Remember the original pop-ups. The original pop-ups were another web page that would open up. But pop-ups are just simply graphic overlays now. There's no pop-up. There's no separate software running. It's just putting a square on top of what you're looking at and then giving you a place to click to get rid of it. So when they talk about pop-ups, they're talking about scripted pop-ups. And there's really very hard to block those because they're buried into the code, whereas the other pop-ups were part of the browser software, so they could actually interface with the browser and block the pop-up. So I remember I used to even write descriptions on how to do that. I went a training course on how to write the code for that. At the back.
You started this.
No, I just, I'm out there teaching people how to do things, you know. No, I didn't tell them to do it that in a way that would annoy you, but people figured out ways to annoy you. Basically, I remember the tutorial I did is exactly the way that one looks. Pop up, hit X to get rid of it, or a lot of people will do an overlay behind it, which is either opaque or partially visible. They're asking you to make it visible, or a little opaque. In which case you could tap the overlay behind it and the thing shuts down. What they did is they started getting rid of all that stuff. They would make all the content hard to read or impossible to read, and then you either had to say yes or no, or you had to answer some questions to get rid of the darn thing. How about the auto-playing video ads? That was brought up today. Let's see what they have here. So here's what they're giving a visual. You can read more about the details on it, but they're giving a visual on auto-playing video sounds. All right, so they're telling you these are disruptive to users. They're showing you what you shouldn't do, I guess, in this case. Maybe in all cases they're showing you what you shouldn't do, but you have to read a little bit. And you're going to see why this is going to become important shortly, but this is a place where they're trying to come up with some balance in between what should be good, what shouldn't be good. Doesn't mean they have to follow it. It's just that's what it is. Let's take a look at mobile experiences. Let's try this one. Full screen, scroll over ads. We probably experienced them, we just didn't realize there was terminology for them. There you go. And I've seen those. I've seen that happen. And so that's the actual term. So in the marketing department, they might be saying, well, we're going to design a full screen scroll over ad for this particular web page. See, they're actually designing these things, the people working on it. So again, they're discussing the bad, why you shouldn't use it, and so on. And if you go to the IAB website, they have a similar web page with the same descriptions. They're all using the same information. I haven't researched who's behind these websites, but I always recommend to people when they're trying to use a website for source, look for the About section, look for the Contact Us section, then check those people out, see who they are. And then you might find out that they are more evil than the people there. You always should check the About and especially pages like this. So I haven't really checked it out, but I bet you Google's in the list. I wouldn't doubt it. But so it's probably Facebook and other ones. All right, so you kind of got the picture. There's a standards board. They're discussing bad experiences with advertising on the internet, trying to tell publishers these are bad experiences, this is how the bad experiences work. And I don't know if they're giving you explanations or not on how to fix them or not, but nevertheless, they're there. You're going to explore this a little bit more. So what does this all mean to you? Well, let's go back to the slideshow. And wait for my old iPad to get its memory reset. Okay. Told you, it's slow and old, but it works. So, Google is using Chrome and something else to find websites that are creating those kinds of pages. And they just started this process in beta. They've already been doing this. Certain places have been already working with them on beta. That'd be a publisher. It could be a website publisher, baseball.com. Who knows who was in the beta run. But officially they started it this week. So now everybody who's involved with something called the Google Web Console. It's basically where you go to Google and tell them about your website, and Google then keeps track of your website for you and tells you what's happening to it. This process is now going on, and they're calling it the Ad Experience Report. So if you're our website owner, you might go to the Google console to find out if there's any problems technically with your website, so Google can't crawl it to put it in its database. One of the things that particular web console does, not only announcing that you do have a website to Google, but they've added this new section called the Web Experience Report. Now, it hasn't gone to all the websites yet. They just started it. But if they find anything in your website that has bad ads, they flag it. And they give you 30 days to correct it. So if you're a website owner, you have a problem because they're going to downrank you. So let's take a look at that a little bit. So downranking you means when you go to search in the search engine, your web page used to be way up here at the top because it has crappy ads on it, and the ad experience report has already been run on that page, and you've gotten problems, and you haven't fixed them. Google's just going to drop you down the ranks, which is good for us, visitors, but it's also important for people to know. So one of the prongs in their attack is the Chrome browser. So this is the Chrome browser, and this is what it will look like if you're on a website that has already gone through the experience report and the page you're on has violations. I forget what Google calls them. We'll see it in a minute. They have a term for it. Probably violations or something. They have some terms, almost like police. So you're not going to see this necessarily on websites today because they haven't been there yet. Google hasn't looked at them yet. So you may come to a website with those same ad problems that you just saw, with videos playing automatically and so on, and you won't see this. But if you're using Chrome and the page has already been run through the acceptance area of Google, you'll start seeing this kind of thing on the page. Only in Chrome, because it's their product, Google's product. Whether Siri or anybody else is going to do that, you got to realize Google's keeping their own data on this. And whether they're going to make it public to everybody else, I doubt it, but it's Google's collecting data. So for example, HuntingtonComputerClub.org is a website. We do have, we went to Google and we have them know that we exist, and we can actually go to that web console of Google and look up the website, and it'll tell us all the pages, what keywords are used to search, where the pages rank. It has all that information for us. It's free. That's up there. And we don't run ads, so we don't have any problem with this, but at some point in time, they may actually come to our site and do the analysis. But if you go there, so they have this data about the Huntington Computer Club in their databases. They keep track of all that. They've been brilliant over the years collecting data for free. What they said to the website owners, hey, we have this service where we'll tell you what keywords are being used to search your website, where the ranking is, where you have problems, what pages have dead links. It gives you all this data for free. So everybody has one of these. By the way, Bing has the same thing. There's a Bing version of it too. It's called the search engine interface, generally speaking. For each search engine, they provide the people that have websites a way to see what that search engine is doing to their website. And you have to get validated. It's also a set of processes. So this is the generic look of what might happen if you're using Chrome and you come to a page that's in violation of the standards for advertising.
So this is just another refinement to search engine optimization.
If you're a publisher, it's very important to understand how this works. As a visitor, you're either going to see this or you're just going to see a web link.
Yeah, right.
And only if you're using Chrome. Because it's a Google thing. Now, you got to realize Safari has some of its own built-in stuff. It has some things in it. The nice thing about Safari is it has the reader mode that works really good. So if you don't mind reading the page, you hit the reader button, up comes the reader, all the text is pulled out of the document, all the ads are stripped out, and you might see one or two images, no videos. So that's why I like Safari, but web publishers have figured out a way to tweak the code, best way I can say it, so the reader mode is foiled. They work at this all the time. I'm in the field, I know, I'm in the field. If a client comes to me and says, look, I really hate that reader mode, no one's looking at her ads. Can you figure out a way around it? And I search on the internet, I'm sure some other software developer will have a whole explanation for what I need to do to help them out. It's going to cost them money, and it's going to take them, it's going to make their website have to be more optimized, worked on, it's going to cost them more to maintain it, but apparently they're going to be willing to put that in. It's a lot easier to put up a website that actually follows these standards. So a simpler website, follow the standards, than creating one where you're trying to get in the user's face every minute, like the advertising guide we saw earlier in the video in the first half of our presentation today. All right, so that's what you're going to see only in Chrome. The crawler is what Google sends out. So websites are being crawled every day, sometimes multiple times a day. It goes page by page through your website, analyzes the data, puts it in their database, makes it available for you if you're a website owner. Excuse me, to see the information. So this will be part of the standards, coming up with the ad standards. They will be there. So I already checked out my website, lonoxford.com, and it says we haven't been there yet for the ad standards. They've been there for the other. They obviously indexing the site. They've been there for years. They come all the time. If you go through the statistics for the website, you can see crawlers hit websites all day. Somewhere between 20 and 30% of the hits on a website is in the crawler area. They're just constantly reading the files and reading. Right? So here is, they're kind of calling them web tools now. They had a different name in the past, Webmaster's account, and then Web Console is the name they've been using for the last couple of years, Web Tools. But anyway, I took some screenshots. This is actually lonhosser.com. I didn't take it for me so much, but for the menu choices. So the menu choices are what the publisher of the website who has problems is going to go here. See, so in other words, I have desktop selected, and it says the ad experience is a combination of blah, 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 blah. And there's a list of all the issues that I might have. So I haven't been there yet, I'm in good shape. I don't think I have any ads on lonhosser.com, to be honest with you. But they might interpret something that's not an ad as an ad. I have to keep an eye on it. And, abusive is the word. It's the word abusive.
Abusive, oh.
And so they have testing tools. So this is a whole set of items for the publisher to deal with it once Google decides to go into their site. Now, Chrome is also feeding information back to this. So if you go to the site using Chrome, from what I've been reading, Chrome is also building data for them. So this is possibly, if you start using Chrome, you'll help lower the rankings, or at least get the publishers who haven't got up to date on this. Now, they announced it in June, and all the information you've seen so far was available in June. Nothing's new, except now this is turned on, and the new Chrome is out as of this week. So anybody who is aware of this, which I was, I've been waiting for it. I've been waiting to see when's it coming out. I knew it's not going to affect the websites I have that have some clients. I mentioned it to them, but none of them run ads. So I just told them, if you're putting ads up, you got to make sure you're following their standards. And it's ads, usually you're a publisher and you have the ads put on the page to make money.
But how did you get to that web? How did you get to that
It's just
page?
It's just Google Search Console. Google. Let's do it this way. And if you're a web owner and you don't have one of these, give me a call. I'll tell you to make sure to get it set. I won't charge you, just to get it set up.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not. You can set it up yourself. I don't think it's a hard thing to do. Basically, what it is, you have to go there and say, I am abc.com, and I'd like to get an account in the web console, Search Console, whatever.
Oh, you have to have a
right, and then what the Google will say, okay, fine. Here's a code. Go put it in the root directory of your web page, and then we'll go see if you put it there. If you put it there, we think you own it. That's how they got it.
Okay.
So obviously that's how it's done. But here it is. I mean, it's pretty much Google. This is for publishers. Well, actually anybody can go here. You have all kinds of information on the right way to create a website, how to optimize your keywords, and lots of information here. But Google Web Console. Let's see if that gets me there. And if I could type it, it would be good. There you are.
So Google Web Console.
Yeah, I was just looking at the suggested site from Siri.
Yeah, so you can look at any site with
Yeah,
that.
they used to call it Google Webmasters. That was the old term.
Uh,
And it looks like they still have a link with the word Webmasters, and I bet you that'll redirect once I can hit that. And let's see what it redirected to. Yeah, it's still using the word Webmasters in the link, and I guess they're still using Google Webmasters. And then the Search Console. But this is the place anybody who has a website either hires people like me to help them or whatever to make sure that they are putting the information on so that it's got optimization for Google's search engine. For example, there's a whole section in here people don't even know about how the video to be optimized. So it's just called Google Webmasters. I guess you can search for it, or Bing Webmasters if we type that one, Bing has one. And any other search engine that you care about.
but you could select what website you want to look that for.
I don't think it lets you see any information unless you log in.
Oh yeah, okay.
But all the training information is available to you. You know, all the how-tos and the why-tos and what makes a good web page and all that's in there. for people that are publishing things. I would recommend it for bloggers too, some of the pages for bloggers. Bloggers sometimes write things they don't realize how they should put the title in, what they should put in the first paragraph when they're actually writing their articles. Although they should write a good article first, foremost. So some of those things in there. Bing Webmaster Tools.
So when I open a web page and all these ads start popping up, the person that made that web page put those ads in there to make money. So that's basically what it is.
And-
Especially the video ones because they're terrible.
And years ago, you used to get a internet service provider, and the internet service provider would give you a free account or something, and they would run ads on the web page themselves. I think that's gone by the bygones, as it's gone away. But yeah, on the web page. So for example, easy way to do this. You have a website, you'll write some great content. What's your area of expertise? What do you really love?
Communications.
Huh?
Communications.
He's a communications guy, so he's got the history of communications. He's going to write the article. Everybody on the internet is going to have content they haven't seen before. He puts up the webpage. What are you doing this for? Well, because you either love to do it, you want to put it up there, it's just a writer. But you can then go to Google, you have a Google account, you go to Google AdSense, 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 and you set up an account. And then they'll give you some plugins that you just plug into your web page, and Google will start running ads on your page for you. And if people click on them or view them, depending on the ad arrangement, they'll put little pennies into your account over time.
So the ads could come from other places.
Right.
Besides you.
So Google's one of the big advertiser providers out there. One of the big ones. It's very complicated because it has one providing to the other, but the bottom line is there'll be somebody giving you a piece of code, we might say, but it's like a plug-in. You would plug it into your page. Like if you're in a website that does all the work for you, then it'll become some kind of a pull-down plug-in that you'll have. If you're writing the actual page yourself, then there'll be a piece of code. You'll put it up, you paste it in, close it, and then the ads start showing up. Either way, you don't do any work except setting up the account and monitoring it, in which case you make money. I mean, I make pennies all the time on some of the old websites I set up. There's always pennies coming. I always make $3 or $4 or $5 bucks a month, at minimum, doing nothing on content that's decades old because I haven't taken it down. But if I really wanted to optimize that, then I would work on being a publisher, trying to make money off of advertising. And Google's one of the ones that will provide the ads to me as I run. So the ads that Google puts on there, they're not the only ones. It's like Joyce was talking about television, where the television channel was advertising their own stuff. You go to a lot of newspaper websites, and you look down at the bottom of the newspaper, they have like a whole 45% of the newspaper up around the side. The article's like in a little teeny spot, and it's all other links to all their other articles. You know, it's like, okay, I didn't really want to know about what goats do in the wild, but it's all in here. So they're running their own ways of advertising themselves. So when you go to a website, it could be Google. So I was just explaining it the simple way.
Yeah.
Google AdSense is one of the methods.
Right.
But there's many other methods to get ads on your page. So all the television channels, CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, you can go down the list a mile long. They all think it's important for when you need to read an article about news that there's a talking head at the top. Quite honestly, I don't really want to hear the talking head.
Yeah.
I just really want to read the article. If it's interesting, I'll read the whole thing. Right?
Now, I have a question about ad blockers. If you go to a browser and you're using an ad blocker, do the ads still come up?
No, the ad blocker is supposed to give you an interface that says, do you want to see ads from the site? Don't you want to see ads from the site? If you don't, we'll just block them
What,
out.
for each individual site or for just the whole browser?
I don't use ad blockers, so I don't know exactly
okay.
how they work, but I can see, some people may use them in here, but they have settings in them so you can optimize them. But generally they have a place for you can do it by domain or by page. They'll either give you a little toolbar at the top of your
Okay.
web browser, like in Chrome. There's plenty of ad blockers in Chrome. They give you a little toolbar at the top, and you'll be able to click on the toolbar and say, unblock this page.
Right.
And then the ads will start flowing down the page.
And then put the individual
And
pages in?
that web browser will remember.
Yeah, okay.
If you go to another web browser, go to the same page, depends on what that web browser
It's just
is.
a thing about going to select an ad blocker, but you got to do all the...
Right, so
things to go along
So
with it.
Google Chrome is providing that built in now, but it's around the bigger picture. So that, in other words, they're saying this is the standards out there. We support the standards. We have control over you people who have websites in our search engine. Well, you publishers, 100 in Computer Club. I'm sure they keep track of us every day. I wonder, what's 100 in Computer Club doing today? So they have control over us because they have the ability to rank us. So if we're going to put up stuff that they don't like, they're going to downrank us in the search engine. And we don't want that to happen, so they kind of got control here. So that when we put up ads, they say, oh yeah, put up ads. Oh geez, we really want you to put up ads for the Computer Club. We're really sad that you don't, but would you put them up, but do them this way, and then we can make some money too, and you can make some money off of the ads. Google recently so they have, every once in a while they tweak their search engine, and everybody has to make changes to their website to modify. I'm trying to think of the last one everybody had to do. It'll come to me in a minute or two. There's something everybody had to do their website to deal with some changes that Google was downranking you for before you could do. But anyway, this is the tools for the publishers. I put some information in here for publishers. I thought even from a user's point of view, it's always good to see what's going on the other side. We like to complain about telephone companies, electric companies, and so on. But we got to realize there are people working there just like us, and there's another view from the other side. So here's the view from the other side of the publishers on the internet. And this is to give you a whole picture into it. And it's not deep enough to go into how you do the advertisements and set them up, but it gives a basic picture. I think you have one or two more slides here, or is that the last one? I can click on a lot of things. If I click on the wrong thing, it doesn't work, right? Oh, here's a little video on this. I think this is useful. Better than I could do it.
Ooh.
Really short, but it's easy. This is Google telling everybody what's going on.
We've all been caught off guard by an annoying ad, the kind that blares music unexpectedly, or a pop-up on top of the one thing we're trying to find. These frustrating experiences can lead people to install ad blockers, and when ads are blocked, publishers can't make money. A survey of hundreds of ad experiences by the Coalition for Better Ads has shown that people don't hate all ads, just annoying ones. Eliminating these ads from your site can make a huge difference. That's where the Ad Experience Report comes in and makes it easy to find annoying ads on your site and replace them with user-friendly ones. The Ad Experience Report is part of Google Search Console, which means you'll need to verify ownership of your site to access the report. You can do this yourself by following the instructions here, or you can be added as a user by your webmaster. If your site hasn't been reviewed or has passed review, the report won't show anything. If your review status is warning or failing, violations will be listed in the What We Found column. Ad reviews report on a sample of pages from both desktop and mobile versions of your site. If negative ad experiences are found, they are listed separately in the report, since a bad experience on mobile may not be as annoying on desktop. Site design issues, such as pop-ups or large sticky ads, concern how ads are being displayed. Click on What We Found to see a video of the ad that was flagged. In place of a pop-up, try a full-screen inline ad. It offers the same amount of screen real estate as pop-ups without covering up any content. Creative issues are shown on your site through ad tags, like flashing animated ads or autoplay videos with sound. Fixing the problem depends on the issue you have. For example, if it's a pop-up, you'll need to remove all the pop-up ads from your site. But if the issue is high ad density on a page, you'll need to reduce the number of ads. Once you've fixed the issues, you can submit your site for a re-review. We'll look at a new sample of pages and may find out experiences that were missed previously. We'll email you when the results are in. For more, please click the link below.
So a regular user can do it. You have to have the ad. You have to have a website to use that.
You would be
service.
probably participating in it if you use Chrome and go to such sites and hit the, the blocks come up, and I think maybe Chrome might be sending that data back. I have to double check that, but I suspect that's part of the issue. But you got to realize, now I saw the pop-up one because I didn't really drill down into the details of this as much. It turns out on that page we were were looking at, they were showing you what is bad experience. So pop-up is considered a bad experience. And hiding content is another one of those animations they had back there. Hiding content, that's very common, like the Scranton newspaper.
Right.
I have friends up in Scranton occasionally, they send me something up there. They all have an account with the Scranton newspaper. I don't. So I go in there, the first thing they do is they make all the text so you can't read it, and they want me to sign up. So they're basically hiding the content. They're saying that's bad. So what this means is a lot of websites have been doing this, have big bills coming up to get themselves back in compliance. Keep in mind, if they get reviewed, let's say on the 14th was Wednesday, right? If they actually got an experience analysis on Wednesday by Google, they have 30 days to fix those. Otherwise, what do they call them? Abusive?
Yeah, abusive.
Failed. Do you see the other words? So basically, Google's a little bit like a police state. They kind of monitor things that are going on, and they put you into these categories. You might have heard about that on YouTube, for example. Places like that, they can actually block the ads on YouTube, so your videos can't get ads, or they can take your account down. And they're like a little bit of they're constantly policing things. People steal other people's contents. There's a place to go to complain. I think I mentioned that one time the last 2 years, where you can go and say, "Oh, my content's been stolen," and Google will look into it. And if they are, they'll take it out of the search engine. There's all kinds of things that Google does on a policing level, or monitoring level. But the point is that a lot of these websites their penalty is that when you go and search for keywords, their site is going to lose ranking if they don't fix the violations within the 30 days. And some of them, the entire site is designed. They have to really going to redesign and rebuild the site. These things are not expensive. Like the Scranton Times newspaper, you're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars of development work to put a site like that and keep it running. See, so some of them, I haven't seen any articles to that subject yet. What's the cost of this to everybody? But it's not something you wouldn't know about because Google's already sent the announcement out to everybody. So it's not something you wouldn't know about. Last slide, and then.
Quickie,
Yep.
why does Google care?
Because of the first slides that we had up, more and more people putting up ad blockers. So what they're trying to say is, publishers, we don't want people putting up ad blockers. All right? And so if you put up an ad blocker, Google, for example, AdSense, Google makes money off of AdSense. Like they make $5, you get 1 cent on a click. But they're making money off of that. So if those ad blockers are turned on, even Google AdSense gets stripped out of the page.
So they're losing money.
And there was a report done about a year and a half ago, that studied ad blockers. And there's a link in there. You can go look up the report. Once the PDF is up there, you can click on the link, and there's a whole report with plenty of graphs and analysis of exactly what's going on with this ad blocker area. So it got Google's attention. In other words, getting the big Goliath's attention. People have been doing that with these ad blockers, and it's Google saying, "All right, we got to get this fixed." So the solution is to get the publishers to fix their pages. And not that Google hasn't been encouraging this by ignoring it. So is that clear?
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. And you can see there are now articles on the internet, SEO for publishers, that are covering this subject area. I took a little snippet out of one article here, and it's telling you, some better planning for advertising on your page. These are just some items in here. Less is more. These are a more generic way of looking at how to do advertising on your page. But more specific is, don't do those things that are on that coalition page. Don't do any of those things, because you're guaranteed to get a violation in your Google console, which you're going to then have to fix. And you have to pay somebody to do it, most likely. And it's going to cost you money, so get them fixed now. That's it. I mean, that's kind of the ending of it. So if you have questions, I'll take questions, or you have comments. Bruce?
Yeah, just a comment. I use 2 different ad blockers. I use a browser called Brave, which I love. It's a very fast browser. And it has a built-in ad blocker. But for the past month or 2, I've been using Firefox, because Firefox now has an add-in that is an ad blocker. And they both work very well. But what I noticed is happening, a lot of the websites now, when I go to them, they pop up a huge window that covers 90% of the screen, and it says, we notice you're using an ad blocker. You can't go here. You know, so they're actually penalizing me for using the ad blocker.
So the web browser exposes itself, not in that way. The web browser exposes itself to the scripting language inside that people use to publish. It's called JavaScript, and the exposure is through something called the BOM and the DOM, which basically translates the browser object model and the document object model. So it gives you access to all the properties and data in the web browser. So they can simply look for all your plugins. So this is, you just write a JavaScript program, when I go through the plugins, they send down a list of the plugins that they don't like, they pop up the big square, intimidates you, says, go away, Bruce, we really don't like you, because you have a pop-up blocker, you know, it's terrible, it's awful that you would do this. And that's all they're doing, because the pop-up blocker you're using is listed probably in the exposed data in the browser. You know, and that's probably how that's happening. And your question is a good one, and I think we got to realize there are pop-up blockers. Some people want no ads. This is not getting rid of the ads.
Right.
This is a process of cleaning them up. If you want to get rid of the ads, get a pop-up blocker even for Chrome. And maybe at some point we might have a little discussion on what some of them are. John.
The relevant ads that you see when you go to Amazon, all of a sudden you're seeing that product on your Facebook site and things like that. Are they using the cookies exclusively to do that?
Well, Google tracks all your history, so if you're signed into your Google account and you're browsing in Google, Google's just pouring that information in. If you're in Facebook, it's sucking all that information down. So what happens is then Facebook sells the data to Twitter. Twitter then adds its data in, sells it to Instagram. Instagram puts some of its data in, sells it back to Google. Google, everybody's sharing the data. Raymore and Flanagan, when you're on their website and you're logged in,
They're selling.
and they pulling your data together. If they can match something in theirs, can you read the privacy agreement? They can match your email address that you gave them to the Google email address, and they provide data over to Google. They merge it in. Next thing you know, you're seeing Raymore and Flanagan ads up, and you never searched for it. Yeah. I'm just using Raymore and Flanagan as a generic example, but you could go directly to a website, never go into Google, like DuckDuckGo. Go directly to the website. That website may be tracking your data and then sharing it with other places. Now, now your specific question was about cookies, but I just want to point out to you, it's bigger than you think. If you think it's big, it's bigger than that. It's huge. The data sharing, they're selling it to each other, is money in this. Now, they may not know who you are, but they know what you like.
Or know how much money you have.
Shirts where you don't, with the tails hanging out. They know that you search for that one time. I love that video because many things I search for, generally I buy them within 10 minutes of searching for them. Many things. And for weeks, they'll be seeing ads for it. I just love that part of the video. They keep saying, do you really still want that beach ball? Do you really want to be, here are other beach balls. I already bought the beach ball, why do I need that? But I can't answer the question from expert area, but the cookies, technically, they're in your web browser. So they're by web browser. And so it's when you're in that web browser, the domain is allowed to read that as cookies, to put it there. So if lonhosser.com or 100andcomputerclub.org put a cookie into your web browser, when you come back to that web browser and go to that same website, they can access the cookie. So for example, like the New York Times will say, you've already read your 5 articles you're allowed free for the month. You go digging through the cookies and you see all these New York, so you hit delete, and then refresh the page, and next thing you know, you have 5 more to read. Then they figured a way around that. Then they decided to start storing some data on their server, which is much more expensive to them, because the server can't be overloaded. So they used to store the data in your cookies about how many free views of their website you could have in that web browser. Of course, then you go to another web browser, you get another 5. Another web browser, you get another 5. Wall Street Journal did that. New York Times did that. Several of them that I've gone to. Was it Bloomberg? One of the other ones in there would actually count the number of visits you have if you didn't log into their account. So I would just go through the cookies. nobody wants to look at the cookie data. It's just, but you can see it says NewYorkTimes.com or something. And delete, 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 delete. Go back, refresh the page, see what happens. If they didn't store your tracking on their server and they only stored it in the cookie, you get the original experience.
Could
Incognito mode's another one. Got it.
Are cookies, could they be read by different websites? In other words,
No, the browser's supposed to protect you from that.
So,
The web browser
if I'm looking at Amazon and I'm looking at a particular product and I'll see it in my Facebook,
And Amazon's loading cookies up in your web browser like you
Facebook didn't
can.
get it for my cookies then.
Yeah, but they're putting it there for them. So next time you come back to Amazon, they can read through all your cookies, file data, and see what you were doing there, and
Somebody
then
must have
use
got
it.
it from Google then.
Amazon, in turn, is collecting all kinds of data on their server. Especially if you're logged in, they know exactly who you are. And then Bezos may say, oh, maybe we can repackage some of this information and sell it to Washington Post. See how it works?
What happens with
Oh,
incognito?
yeah, a lot of questions all of a sudden. I don't even know what I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I just saw you as number 3, but I heard your voice first. So
What happened with incognito mode?
I don't. Isn't not incognito mode not supposed to track cookies? I really don't know. I never use it really. It's supposed to private browsing is what it's called, generally called private browsing. So I think that might just nail the cookies down, so you can't. I have to look that up. Again, I think we might be seeing sometime during the year some focus on browsing in this club. Revisiting it, we've had it on and off during the year, looking at some of these different choices. What's a pop-up blocker? What's incognito mode? Why would you use it? What are cookies? Can you actually everything in your web browser you can manipulate by going into the web browser's tools area, generally speaking. It's either called developer tools or something like that. It's up in the menu, usually desktop. You have to do it on desktop. There are limited tools on mobile devices, but there is a way to use your desktop to actually get into the web browser data on there. But most web browsers on smart computers have a settings page where you can go look at the cookies and delete them. But nothing like the desktop. The desktop software is very detailed. You can look at history, you can pick particular history items out. You have complete control over whatever data has been stored on there about that. 1, 2. You're done, Bruce, on that? Yeah, I think you're on it. Yes.
It's a follow-up of just what you said, or it's very close to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. When you're using your phone, your tablet, and your PC, like, your phone is, and you have different reasons for using those. And let's take your PC, you want it mainly for work.
Mm-hmm.
But you go into a tablet and you're just browsing away. Because you went through Google Chrome, it's just when you go to your PC or go to your phone, it's going to hold all that information on your other devices.
The information, there's 2 ways for them to store information on you. One is locally on your machine, and there's cookies is in a group of 2 different technologies, but just say cookies in general. That's also called local data is another place. So there's 2 ways web browsers allow any website to store data on your machine. In that web browser, Google's one, you go over to another window and running Safari, doesn't have the same data. You go to the same way, they have to rebuild the data over here. So there's 2 ways to do local data is stored in the web browser, and that same website has to come back and see it. There's domain rules about who's allowed to see it, who's not allowed to see it, but anything with the domain name in it. So domain name, is top domain is like .com, .org. Domain is the next word to the right. And then the www and all that has nothing to do with it. I think that it doesn't matter what the subdomain is. It's the second word over from the top domain, like .com, .org, .edu. The second word over to the right is domain. I think that entire domain has access to all the content stored by anything that even has subdomain names to the further to the right. And your question is good because there's a lot to it. So that's use a desktop to keep it simple in your mind, so you have more than one browser. Here's what I do. When I'm doing development work, I like the Google search engine. So Google knows all the stuff I search about, like, how to comment a JavaScript program. I search all kinds of technical stuff over there. Occasionally I'll search for products and so on. If I want to do searching for me personally, I go out of that and go into Safari where I have DuckDuckGo running. Or maybe I'm in Chrome and I'll just start DuckDuckGo up. But the default browser in Chrome is, or in Chrome is Google. The default search engine is Google. In Safari and all the other browsers, I use DuckDuckGo because they don't track at their server. They may track on my web page. I don't know what DuckDuckGo does there, but that's hopefully to improve my experience using DuckDuckGo. Generally, that's when they're storing it in your cookies or your local data, is to improve your experience with that site. And they're just keeping information. So, like, if you come back, they bring you to the last page you're on. Those kinds of hopefully user experiences. Not all of it, but it's in there. Now, so if you're using, let's say, Google Chrome on your desktop, and you go over to you still have a BlackBerry? Here's a story about why they got rid of BlackBerry. Another conspiracy theory. So you go from Google Chrome and you go to, say, an iPhone where you're using maybe Safari. It's two different worlds. Now, if you have Chrome, I think there's a Chrome for Safari. There's definitely a Chrome for Android. Or there's a Firefox for Android and a Firefox. There, you may have enabled it to store your data in the cloud. So it may take the local data and put it in the cloud. That's what Safari does, which is a great thing. So as I'm in Safari and I have a list of pages that have opened, I can then go to any one of my devices and I can actually go down and there's the list. So I can see them without having to remember what they were. So there's some sharing that goes on there. I'm not answering your question specifically because I'm not sure your situation, but there is the third and the big area is that they store data on their server. And you somehow identify yourself when you're using the web browser. All right, so example how you identify yourself using the web browser is you're logged into your Google email account. Okay, so if you're logged into your Google email account, anything Google has stored on its server is available if you're doing anything Google wants to be able to see you're doing in history and so on. So that's. And what are they sharing? Well, Google has a place for all that. I think we did a series last year. Was it last year or the year before? I did like every meeting a little something on Google. All the different software packages. So there is a place in Google where you can go and manage your Google data if you want. You just have to look it up. There's probably maybe we need a revisit to it, but you just type in managing your Google data. I think will get you there. All right. If you've been to any nefarious websites, it'll be in there. Whether you got there on your own or by accident.
There's a lot of accidents.
So try to find it in here, managing your Google data, somewhere in here. You might find it. Maybe it's, but there is a place that Google provides all users a place to manage their server data, the data they have on the server. Everything. Oh, what is the name of that thing? Google, we did it I've gone there a few times. Come on, Google. Let me try this one. I don't go there anymore because I just don't.
You didn't spell it right.
Well, here's the privacy statement. Now, they may have changed things. We got this assistant and so on.
There it is, how to find and delete the personal
Yeah, that's
data.
another website. Oh, there it is, my account. But there's a place where Google has everything that you've used in Google as a Google product. What you set, unset, everything. Wallets, search engine choices, it's all there for you to manage. All right, obviously I have to type in my password here. I don't even know what it is. See? Let me just say something else.
Do it 3 times a walk, yeah.
Hold on. And then we'll see, maybe one more question and then we'll call it a day. All right. Yeah, log in. Here we go. I don't think this is exactly what I was looking for, but it might be. This is just the personal information, but there's another one. I'll try to find it. It's just the name's not on the top of my head at this point, where Google shows you every little thing, Google Blogger, whatever account you have where there was a choice. It just has a big, long scrolling screen. You'll be surprised at things you've done at Google you can't remember you did in the past. But the history is the big one. And usually I think you can see the history in Chrome. I think you can see and I think Chrome lets you delete it off their server too. So, you know, if you were searching for something that you really wanted to keep secret, you know, and people do search for things they want to keep secret. You might be searching for something that, you know, that you don't want other people to know about. But, you know, real things. And now it's in the Google search history, and anybody can get in there, look at your history. You can log in under it. You can see your history, see where you've been.
Well, that's where the forensic people go to find all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you
They don't go to your
can be a detective, you know, searching for things. I mean, I give you a simple
Yeah.
example, and you want to clear that data out for your clients, so your client's information protected. I'd have to think what it is, but this is obviously one place. Your actual Google account has ad settings. I don't know what all these things are. Payments. It may be the new updated version of what I used to remember seeing. That's in here. But for example, I have something called Google Alerts. It's a Google product. You go into Google, you type your name in, Alonzo Hosford. Add a second alert, Lon Hosford. Add a third alert, Hosford. Fourth alert. What Google does is searches for those keywords behind the scenes and sends you a notification when they found new updates showing up on the internet. I find it convenient. I learned about Hosfords throughout the world. I know there's a Hosford in Georgia right now. It's a school teacher looking for school supplies. I don't know who she is. I'm not going to give her her school supplies either, but I'm just giving you an idea. It's called Google Alerts. That was on that page. It has all that information on there. See, it's something I use, and then you can't remember where it is. So there is a central place. I don't know if this is or not. But as far, let me grab up your question. So your question is, how close are we to you understanding?
Well, you gave a lot there, so I wrote notes, and a lot was very helpful, and it made sense what we're saying from the cloud and also two different browsers.
Yeah,
That you can get a better
That's a
control
feature.
of what's going on.
Just keep in remind you is that the server can store information on you. It's more expensive for the web hosting company to maintain data on all the people browsing. Google, no problem. But say Raymore and Flanagan's or some departments, it might be much more difficult for them to spend time tracking a lot of tracking data on random users. But a logged in user, they love to keep all that data on. And then what they do with it is the privacy statement, which they can change any day. But you can go read their privacy statement. All the data we do not share with third parties, but we can change this privacy statement anytime in the future when we want to. Did you have a question?
Well, I had a question, but now I'm all mixed up. Because
You'll be the last question.
I've never talked about,
Oh, we have a few minutes.
but I use Internet Explorer. And I do what I have to do, open Internet Explorer and close it, and I get 6 cookies, for example. Now those cookies, I don't know if they go to Windows or up something in the web, I don't know, but I can erase them off my computer. In the olden days, you had to worry because if you had too much of that in your computer, it would slow you down from memory, because of memory. You don't have to worry about it anymore because you got billions and billions of memory. I open Firefox, open and close it, don't open anything. It has 1.8 million cookies or information. I don't know what they are. So then I go and I open up a web page on Internet Explorer, and it says it has 15 bits of information, cookies or any history, whatever. Then I go and open up the exact same website on Firefox, and it has 5 million hits of cookies and everything. Do all those go to?
No, those cookies are information that are located on your web browser
On your web browser.
about domains websites, we say,
Yeah.
but domain names that you visited, and they wanted to keep data there so when you come back,
Yeah.
they can use that data in some way, such as knowing that the last time you were there, you were looking for a new pair of
Yeah.
a new shirt.
Yeah,
That way you can
but,
hang
you know,
out,
it doesn't-
so they kind of know they're kind of there, that's what this guy was complaining about. But that's transient data, so if you go to another web browser and go to that same website, they'll never know that because those cookie data is over on the first web browser.
I'm saying the same exact web page gives me different amount of information on
Right.
on Internet Explorer than it does
Right,
on.
they're two separate cookie files.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe the same file, but they're separated in terms of which web browser.
Yeah, right.
All right, so the cookie file's over here. It's the data that they take back to their server with a way to identify you in some marketing level. One marketing level, obviously, is you have an account with that web server.
Yeah, right.
Now, Google is your Gmail account. Once you log in, every Google thing you go to, Google's can put the search data on their server if they want. And again, putting everybody who's searching on your website's data into your server is an expensive
Yeah.
process. Google can do it, whereas a small little company like the flower shop down the street, they're going to use third parties or not do it at all because the cookies are on your machine. Now the cookie data could be mirrored on the server, but the
Yeah.
cookie data is there. And so you can clear the cookies whenever you want.
I
So-
clear the cookies every time I log
yeah,
out.
their software, I think, will do that automatically for you when you log out.
Some of it will, some of it won't. Some of it says it does it, but it doesn't.
So what you're saying is, to the domain that you're visiting, I want you to think of me as a brand new visitor for the first time, but it's not going to work if you were logged into that domain in some way because they might be storing some of that
Someplace
information
else.
there. That's a whole different story. When you set up your account, they have a privacy statement.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
I've read it.
Yeah, and all the privacy statements are the same. They're meaningless pieces of information. They say we're keeping all your data. We won't share it with anybody. We only use it when we absolutely have to use it to help your user experience be much more pleasant. But we don't have any kind of controls in our server department, so we don't know what the heck those guys are doing with the data back there. On the other hand, if we get bought up tomorrow, I don't know what we'll.
Yeah.
So you really got to trust the domain if you want to give them some way to track you with more personal information, like your email account would be a good one. The other way, if you visit them anonymously, that's what the private browsing is, or you
Right.
don't log in, they'll still store cookie data, but anonymously. See, I do this.
Yeah.
I know how this works. So,
Yeah.
so if I was doing a website for you and you wanted to say, I want to store whether this person ever visited me before, I'll tell you, I can't do that unless you have a login for me. Well, I don't want to do that. Okay, so what I can do is when they go to a web browser, I can store your domain in there and whether that web browser has been to your website and the date they were last here. I can store that in the cookie.
Yeah.
So if you are the person, they don't have any idea who you are. They just know you're using a web browser that was here before. You understand? They know that there was a web browser being used that was here before. And in that web browser, we found out that you were searching for shirts that you can wear untucked. Now, if you're sharing that computer with your wife, and she goes into the same web browser and doesn't log in anywhere, and she's searching around, she's going to get the same advertisement when she goes to that website. They're going to come up and say, oh, you're that web browser that was interested in male shirts that hang out. If you log in, they may then in turn put some of that information on their site.
Well, just to that, Firefox does have private browsing as an option immediately. I don't know if the other ones do or not, but Firefox does.
Obfuscate. Search for toilet rolls every once in a while.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
wheels.
yeah. Search for shirts that hang out. Then you'll mess them all up because then they'll be thinking that's what you're interested in.
Mosquito.
Yeah, search for mosquito repellent or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
right,
You know.
whatever it is.
Search for trips to Antarctica. You know, obfuscate is what I always say. Is that if you really want to have some fun with the web browser or even Amazon, right? We have time for maybe one more. Yes.
Slight deviation from the topic.
Yeah.
But only because you logged on to your
Yes.
Google email.
Which I usually don't.
I have not been able to figure out how to stop your email ad, like when you log in, because sometimes I'll log in from other people's computers.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you log out when you're done.
I do, but it just always stays there. So they used to not allow that, and now you
I'm not
have to go-
sure what you're thinking. Well, if you come to my computer and say go to Chrome and log into your Google account,
Right. And then-
Chrome,
and
I
then
think, actually adds you to a list of users.
No, but then I log out.
And then it'll leave you up there, but it'll say you're logged out.
Right, but then when you go to log in, my email address will come up.
Well, yeah, you're up there on the list. Now, if you said, remember this, Chrome, see, this is the other thing. A lot of the web browsers ask you, do you want to remember your bank cards,
Right.
your login?
And that's how it used to be, but last year they changed it, and now, and I.
Yeah, so again, you're gonna have to look in the private, some area to undo that, because there is a place for you to
I
undo
know, and
that.
I've looked.
So
for
that's a
it.
convenience sometimes. For example, when I go to MailChimp, I have so many websites, I don't even. MailChimp, I sign in for the computer club to send out, like an email, like meetings coming up. I can never remember I don't want to go to the book and look up what is the password, so I said, Google, you can remember the MailChimp one, because I don't think we're really in danger here of, evil people coming to my computer, actually getting into there, knowing that there's a MailChimp account in there. So I have it remember it, so it says, it puts a login information in for me. But if in the same browser I go to my bank account, it doesn't put it in, because I don't want it to store my bank account login. So now you're on somebody else's computer, make sure Google doesn't ask you if you want to
have
say.
to go into that
Yeah, I
privacy.
think it has to ask you. I don't think it does it automatically.
There's some language in there that, again, I cannot understand and I can't follow.
Are you using Chrome though? I mean, I don't know what you're using, because everybody's got different browsers. Firefox works a little differently. Well, so Chrome, I don't know if you have to be logged in, but I think once you log out, you can go up there and say remove account. No,
You have to go into all the privacy things and.
Really? Oh, that's a lot of work.
Just,
I know I'm up there in like 4 different ways. I have an account for 100 Computer Club. I have a Google email account, a private email account. I have a couple blog email accounts on Google. So there's a whole list of me's up there. The matrix, me. But it's easy for me to switch from one to the other doing that. And occasionally I have a client that I have to work on, and they'll go up in the list. And there is a way to delete them out, I know, because I don't want to see their name once they're not paying me anymore. All right, let us know if you can find that. If you can't find that, or contact us to let us know. You can. I'll find it for you, because you don't want to leave. You visit somebody, you don't want to leave
exactly.
your stuff on their browser. Some places, I don't know where the library does this. When you log out of the computer, they refresh the whole
Every night.
private data, but I don't know what we do.
Some hotels leave your stuff too.
Yeah, another place, yeah, you're in the hotel.
Or stuff at the airport, at the kiosk.
Sure, go to the hotel.
Yahoo is easy, right? So you bring up the page, and then there's a little box that says if you don't want to be remembered, unclick it. Easy enough.
Mhm.
Google now, last year they changed it, and it's impossible to understand.
This is logging into an account, and it is, you have to decide which browser you really want to do that on, but if you're only allowed Chrome is the only thing that's available, like you said in the hotel. They may only have Chrome, or they might just have Internet Explorer. You might be stuck with that browser, you can't use another one, and you don't know how it works. See, and then you end up leaving your data. Definitely log out, so the last person doesn't, next person come up and say, oh, look, I can order a ticket to Hawaii. All right, yep. There's still interest here, 1, 2.
Yeah, if you search on Google, search for reset browser, it'll give you a list of the way to completely reset each of the browsers, whatever browser you're on. And it should probably eliminate your name from that browser.
Okay, I will try that, thank you.
You want to put that to the test?
All the different options that are available.
There you are. Reset Chrome settings to the default. So there's a whole bunch of choices there you can explore. And the first one is Google. The second one, third one, fourth one are other websites. You all do look at this
Yeah, you gotta look at that.
just to be sure.
Very careful.
Like how to geek, that sounds pretty friendly. Sounds good. Malware tips, okay, but even the word malware, in the URL makes me nervous. I don't know what a CCM is. That sounds like somebody wants to be CNN or something, but this is WikiHow. It sounds pretty. So you should really look at that occasionally before you go jump into websites.
I found another thing happening on websites too. If I go into one website, say it's blue, and I close it, and it says blue, but it's not the exact URL, another person will come up with blue right on top of that and put a different website on it. So the website you're looking for is not coming up, the one that they put, because you.
What do you mean a different person?
Suppose you select blue, and it's a URL for the website.
Off of a listing like this.
Well, it'll be like that.
Okay.
The next time you go in, blue, but the URL is different on the first line. It's a different URL.
That's an interesting one. I don't know that one. She was in the queue. Just see
Oh,
you.
no,
Oh, you're done. Okay. All right. Good. Well, with that, I don't know, but you got to be careful of misspellings. It's one of the trickiest things. Even when you register a website, How to Geek. How about how-to-geek.com? You know, and people get into legal battles over all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
They're using zeros for O's and all that stuff. It's ridiculous. You can't keep up with it.
That's why you come to the computer club.
Yeah.